Stripe, the payment processor, is now shutting down coaching accounts. So I'm just hearing about this. I just started hearing about it yesterday. So I don't have all the information yet, but I wanted to go ahead and jump on and talk to you guys about how important it is for you to start looking at how to get your sales and marketing more compliant. Okay. So in the certification course that I just finished about FTC compliance, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not affiliated with the FTC. This was a very thorough course that was taught by a lawyer who is an expert in sales and marketing laws in the US. So I picked up a lot of knowledge. And one of the things that he talked about was that the FTC, I think at another time, had gone after payment processors and said, if you are enabling predatory businesses to rip people off, you should know that that's what your clients are doing, and therefore we're going to hold you accountable for your clients ripping people off, because they couldn't do it without the payment processors. And so it looks like, I don't know if so I'm not affiliated with the FTC. I'm not affiliated with Stripe. So I can only say what it kind of looks like based on the information that I have so far. So I'm Heather Wild. I'm an ethical sales strategist. I've been an online business owner since, I trained as a coach in 2009, and I've been online since like 2011, 2013, started taking business courses. And y'all, this is stuff that I saw coming a long time ago, unfortunately, because just the way, like, there's so many great people in the coaching industry, but the way that we've been taught to sell and market was really unethical and sleazy and misleading and all the things. And unfortunately, because we haven't, as an industry, come together and looked at how to solve these problems, now the government is they are stepping in, right? And so I'm not sure with Stripe if the FTC has started breathing down their neck. No one has said that yet, but in light of them picking up the pace of prosecuting, investigating, and suing influencers and online business owners and coaches, I don't know if maybe Stripe just saw the writing on the wall and they're like, we need to get our ducks in a row before the FTC comes knocking on our door, or if the FTC already, came to them and talked to them. Someone also said that Stripe is about to go public and start taking on investors from the stock market. Again, I haven't researched this yet. I just wanted to jump on and make this right, because a lot of people aren't taking this FTC stuff seriously. A lot of people are believing, some of the myths that it doesn't apply to them because they're not a big name coach, or they're not making a lot of money, or, they're not based in the US. And even though they sell in the US, somehow this doesn't apply to them, or that other people are doing so many worse things. So how would the FTC ever come after them? Y'all, if you're breaking these laws, and these are laws that have been on the books for a long time, they're not new. It's just that most of us in the online world came on and we learned sales and marketing from, these big name industry leading coaches that we assumed had good legal teams. And honestly, they probably did. But what I found out in my journey of learning about compliance and FTC and everything is that if you have a general business lawyer, but they're not really familiar with FTC laws, then they may have given you bad advice. I know in Anik Singh's case, he just wrote "Don't Say That" with his lawyer, Greg Christiansen, and that's actually Compliant Marketing Academy is the course that I just went through, and it was taught by Greg. And but he had lawyers, and his lawyers said, it's fine as long as nobody's complaining. And that's another big myth. So a lot of people are still keeping their heads in the sand, and they're thinking it won't happen to them, or if it's one of the big coaches that is making just ridiculous amounts of money, they're rolling the dice and they're like, oh, I'll just pay the fine, right? So the FTC, I think, kind of knows the mindset of entrepreneurs, right? We're hard-headed people. If we were not hard-headed, we would have gone and gotten a 9-to-5, right? So it's kind of like the nature of the beast. We are hard-headed people, and I think that they know that and I think they will continue making cases and making examples out of coaches that aren't compliant. But I think they also know that it's going to take a long time for people to finally be like, oh shit, I guess we really do have to take this seriously, right? If they're just going the legal route. And so I could totally see them just like, okay, well, they're probably not going to listen to us, so we're just going to cut off their ability to make money. Now, I don't know. I know PayPal has always been a little weird with coaches. I know some coaches who have had great, experience with them and never had a problem. But I know other coaches who have had their accounts frozen, even though no one was complaining. It just always seemed like PayPal was like a little more cautious, and you were much more likely to have somebody win a dispute against you, is what I've heard. I haven't had those experiences. I do have Stripe. I'll talk more about that in a second. And then there's also Square, Square Pay or something. I don't know. I used to use that. I don't know what's going on with them, right? So we will probably have other options, but I think all of them, Stripe may just be the first to really be getting their ducks in a row, right? And whether that's because the FTC has already come knocking at their door, or if it's just they see the writing on the wall, or if it has nothing to do with all this stuff going on in the coaching world, but it's just because they're getting ready to go public. I don't know, but these are all some factors that could be playing a part. So what was the other thing? Also, there's the New York Times article that just came out, I think on June 4th, which is called They Spent Their Life Savings on Life Coaching. And it is scathing. It's talking about the MLM nature, the pyramid scheme nature. I shouldn't say just MLM. I should say more like the predatory MLM. Maybe there's a good MLM out there somewhere. I don't know. I guess it's possible. But at any rate, they called coaching a pyramid scheme. And not all coaches are evil. And they acknowledge that not everybody is sleazy and predatory and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of that, right? And a lot of the bigger name, programs, you get in and it's like, oh, we're going to sell you this thing and it's going to fix everything. And then you get to the end of it and it hasn't fixed everything. And so they're like, oh, we're going to sell you this same thing. We're going to sell you this new thing that's going to fix everything. And you just end up paying more and more and more money, getting more and more certifications or more and more healing or whatever. And it's kind of like Scientology. Like every time you think you're done, there's something else, right? So the article came out, and Stripe may be reacting to that too, right? Because it certainly paints a scary and gross and unfortunately kind of accurate picture of the coaching industry. So I what else do I want to talk about? So there's a document on the Stripe site that I'm going to put down in the description so that you can look at yourself. And it talks about like prohibited and restricted businesses. And it looks like they did update this just this month. It says last updated in June 2024. And it's not like they're only going after the coaching industry. It has a bunch of like what they call high risk jurisdictions. So there's certain places that they won't process payments from. High risk person. So that's probably people with criminal records, especially if they have a history of like con or fraud. Prohibitive services, so things that it's highly likely that maybe oh gosh, what am I saying? Organized crime could be involved in, so they're just like, no, we don't want to touch it. There's prohibited goods. And so there's a lot of things like all adult content and services, right? And I used to be in the adult industry, so as much as that annoys me, I also get it because I was one of the few ethical escorts that actually liked what I did and didn't try to rip people off, right? But so many of my coworkers and the agencies I worked for, they didn't give a shit about customer service and they would just rip people off. And some people would change the numbers on credit cards. Yes, we took credit cards. How crazy is that? Would change the name on credit, the numbers on credit card receipts. So a lot of sleazy things goes on in that industry. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean everybody in the industry is sleazy, but there's a lot of sleazy people in the industry. It's just a fact, right? And so they don't touch that, right? Debt relief companies, that was an interesting one that they won't have anything to do with. Anything to do with gambling. So gambling is, I don't know, it's legal in some places. It seems like it's getting to be more legal because I kept seeing ads for it in North Carolina for like apps and stuff. But government services, like if you're offering government services with misleading claims, well, obviously that's a problem. Identity service for identity protection services, including monitoring and recovery, products and services that infringe on intellectual property rights. That's kind of like a no duh. Legal services, bankruptcy attorneys, they won't work with. I imagine they probably have a high chargeback rate. Or they're working with people who need bankruptcy services, so obviously they don't have a lot of money, so maybe the payments are going to fail. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not affiliated with Stripe. I'm just saying what it looks like to me. Let's see, travel, commercial airlines and cruises, unfair, deceptive, or abusive acts or practices that contravene rules, laws, regulation, or guidance prescribed by the Federal Trade Commission, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or other local consumer regulatory bodies. First thing first, pyramid schemes, multi-level marketing services, get rich quick schemes, businesses that make outrageous claims, use deceptive testimonials, use high pressure selling, or use fake testimonials. So that's half of the coaching industry, especially like the business coaching side of the industry right there. So this is why it's not an attack on coaching, it's an attack on unethical businesses. It's an attack on predatory business practices. Now, unfortunately, so I heard about this from someone who I'm going to be doing a podcast interview. She's going to be interviewing me on her podcast. So she was telling me about this was something that had become a thing in her circles, and she said that she had gotten audited, but and I wasn't able to like, she's really busy, and so I wasn't able to get all the details. But what it sounded like is they audited her, and I don't know if it was for like the entire time she had her account, or if it was like, send us all your information for the last 2 years or something. I don't know. I'll find out. But excuse me, she said that all she had to do was send in, her contracts. She had all of her contracts showing that all the charges were legal, and, the signatures from the clients and everything. She had all her ducks in a row, right? Which is a big thing. Like, even if you're being compliant in the way that you're selling and marketing, one of the ways you have to be compliant is having your documents organized. So, because there's no way to like prevent the FTC from ever looking at you, but you can do things that will lower your risk and have your ducks in a row, so that if they ever did come knocking, you can just hand them over. Here's the substantiated proof of all my claims. And then, they just have to fuck off. Well, not necessarily. Hopefully hopefully you've got everything and they agree with you and they just fuck off. But at any rate, so she was audited, and I think that she said that they started it in mid-May, and they gave her 2 weeks to get all the information to them. And she's fine. She got to keep her account. But she messaged me this morning, or no, this afternoon, and said that somebody she knows who is a seven-figure coach, I don't know who it is, somebody really well known, and she got the notification after sending in all her information that they are shutting down her account. And they didn't, the reasons for shutting it down were like really, really vague. So I don't know this person. I don't know if they are predatory or in their marketing and sales. My feeling about it is that it's probably not that they're a predatory coach and that they do gross things, but just that their marketing and their selling is not compliant. And so they just decided that it wasn't worth the risk, right? So and I don't know, again, this is me piecing together things that I know from these major events happening. First the FTC, and this has been happening for a while, we've just had our heads in the sand about it, and then this New York Times article, and now the thing with Stripe. And I have no idea if this is really going to happen or not, but I would not be surprised to see the same kind of things start happening with PayPal and Square. So it's going to be very interesting times in the coaching industry. Now, it's not Armageddon. If you are a soul-led coach, if you're somebody that like this really is your life purpose to be a coach, you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to learn about compliance. You're going to have to change the way that you're doing things. And even if you're ethical, doesn't mean you're compliant. I'm very ethical in the way that I take care of people. I've never had anybody try to charge back on me. I've had clients that weren't happy, and so I just refunded them their money, right? I don't think they went to like the Better Business Bureau or anything on me. They could have. That's one of the things. Like, just because you think nobody is complaining doesn't mean that they're not complaining. Maybe they're just not complaining to you, right? So, just because you're ethical, just because you're running your business well, does not mean that you're compliant. So there's a lot of things that I am changing in the back end. Like, I just had a website done and I have to go in and change so much. And as a matter of fact, I've shut my website down except for the blog section so that I can put out these types of videos and educate people about it. But yeah, like, there's, little ways that the ways that I was selling was not compliant. It wasn't unethical. I wasn't being pushy. I wasn't lying to anybody. I wasn't misleading anybody, but I also wasn't aware of laws about the ways that I had to start my sales calls, for instance, or that I had to, keep my sales calls for a certain period of time in order to be legally compliant. There's all kinds of stuff. So I will be making more content around this. And I'm not making this to scare you. I'm making it to educate you so that you can, get ahead of the curve. If you think that your sales pages or, anything might not be compliant, I would go ahead and and this is not legal advice. I cannot give you legal advice because I am not a lawyer. But so what I will say is what I'm doing. I've taken down all my sales pages. I took down most of my website because my testimonials aren't compliant. There's 4 things that you need for your testimonials to be compliant. It's not enough that they're true. It's not enough that they're really from your client. There's 4 other things that you have to have. So I would say, take your stuff down, because it would be better to like miss out, in my opinion. Well, let me take it back to me. So in my opinion, it's better for me to miss out on some sales than it is for me to invite the wrath of the FTC or the wrath of Stripe, right? So if you guys are getting audited, like, don't freak out. Give them, get your contracts together, send them over. Go talk to a good business lawyer. Like, the thing with Stripe, I'm guessing, and again, this is not legal advice, this is just me, guessing, that you would need like a regular, like some kind of business lawyer that specializes in these sorts of like business to business disputes or something. And maybe you could get your account reopened. I have no idea. I know the story I heard about the big name, well, they're not necessarily big name, but like a big earner coach. They said, we promise you we've been very thorough. We're not going to be able to reverse this decision. Now, can they legally, say that? I have no idea. So I'm sure that person is talking to a lawyer right now. But yeah, so stay tuned to my channel. Let me know what you want to know. Go dive in. I've got a whole playlist of like FTC compliance for online entrepreneurs or online businesses. And then another playlist that is like ethical coaching, and some of the videos are on both because they kind of go, together. And if you want to learn ethical selling, right, and this is going to become more and more important. So because like there's compliance, and compliance, a lot of that is really moving things toward ethical, but it doesn't cover everything. And you can be compliant and still get customer complaints, and the FTC can investigate you even if no one ever complains. But if you get customer complaints, they're much more likely to come knocking on your door one day. And so it's gonna become that much more important, like, especially, well, if you're a soul-led entrepreneur, if you're a soul-led coach, this was important to you anyway. But if you weren't necessarily, but you really want to keep your business, the focus is going to really move to only selling to people that are likely to get good results, and creating packages that provide like high level, high touch support so that people feel taken care of. They feel like the money they spent with you was worth it. So they are much more likely to get results, because otherwise they're going to complain. And, getting chargebacks, maybe nobody complains, but they charge back on your business. So if you've had people charge back on your Stripe account, then that could be something that could also, again, this is conjecture on my part, but that could trigger you being investigated or being audited, by Stripe. Anyway, I don't want this to get too long, but let me know what else you want to know. Again, I am Heather Wild. I'm an ethical sales strategist and I'm a consumer advocate. I've written 2 books about consumer advocacy for coaching clients. And let's see. The first one was written in March in 2022. I've been an ethical business coach since 2020. I am not jumping on a trend. This is what I've been about all along. My second book was written and published, was published in December of 2023, and it's called What Every Entrepreneur Wishes They'd Known Before Hiring a Business Coach. And it's the 7 steps that I learned to put coaches through before hiring them. So it's about how to cover research, how to interview them, not just let them interview you on a sales call, but to interview them, to like do everything that you can to make sure it's a good fit, and then how to ensure that you get good results with them. So the link for that will also be in the not comments, in the description. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. And hold on to your hats. It's gonna be a wild ride. It's gonna be a little bumpy. But the coaching industry, I don't think is going anywhere, but there are a lot of changes. And the last thing you need to do is put your head in the sand. The best thing you can do is to start educating yourself. Take some anxiety medication if you need to. I just got back on anxiety medication myself. So, but don't freak out, and don't listen to people that are talking about this like it's Armageddon and trying to scare you into buying their stuff. Like that's gross. They're not helpful. But do go to the FTC.gov site. Check out Anik Singh's book and his course. So I am not affiliated with him at this time. I may become an affiliate. The book is really good. The course is really solid from everything I've seen of it so far. So the first part was about FTC compliance that was taught by his lawyer. It was kind of giving you the background and helping to understand the laws and the regulations. The second part is Anik actually telling you how to market and sell successfully, even with all of these like restrictions. So, and that part hasn't started yet, so I can't report on it. But the course in the book is actually really good, solid information. It's not legalese. So it's a lot easier for those of us who did not go to law school to understand. And if I do change to being an affiliate, I will disclose that. I will disclose that in the description above any affiliate links. All right, y'all. I hope you're having, a wonderful day. And yeah, let me know what else you want to know.